I stood nervously in my boss's office, twitching my fingers on the edge of my notepad. My internship was coming to an end, and I was not prepared for it at all. When my supervisor gestured for me to sit down, the quiet hum of the city outside appeared to get louder.
"Annie,"
said my manager. "Yes?" I asked, inquisitively.
"Throughout your internship here, I've been observing your commitment and diligence. Your dedication has not gone overlooked,"
he said. My heart raced at his words.
"Your performance and demeanor pleased us. I'm happy to let you know that you are no longer an intern. We would like you to join our organization as a full-fledged professional because you received a promotion."
As soon as he said that, I felt a rush of exhilaration taking over me. My smile stretched over my face as my eyes widened. I had spent innumerable late nights and early mornings proving myself, all leading up to this moment. Really? With a mixture of shock and delight in my voice, I stammered.
"Unquestionably, Annie, your abilities, initiative, and upbeat attitude towards difficulties were exactly what we look for in our professionals. We thought you had a lot of potential, and we look forward to seeing what you can do in this new position,"
he said with a broad smile. "Many thanks, sir. I'm grateful for the chance." I gave my response and then left the office. My mind was whirling with possibilities. Previously intimidating, the desk now held an abundance of opportunities. I attempted to be grateful and thanked my boss in the middle of the emotional storm. As I walked out of the office, I was giddy with excitement. There seemed to be a new energy about the corridor. I received nods of appreciation and grins from my colleagues. Word spread fast around the office. Warm, encouraging comments echoed from every corner, turning what had been a routine workday into a celebration. My desk, which had been tucked away in a corner, was suddenly the center of attention. Finding out I was the youngest employee made me delighted. Throughout the day, I was introduced in a series of meetings as the youngest professional in the organization. I was proud of the title and agreed to take on the responsibilities that came with it. I approached my work with renewed confidence, keen to prove that the promotion was well-deserved. I reflected on my journey as the working day drew close. From my first day as an intern navigating the rigors of the working world to this moment of triumph, I felt a feeling of pride and accomplishment. The promotion rewarded my efforts. The city lights glistened even more that evening as I left the office. The air was full of promise for a bright future, and I couldn't wait to begin this new chapter in my career. But I never would have guessed that I would not be feeling this excited the following day. I entered the office with a feeling of delight, emanating from within as the warm rays of the sun greeted me.
"You have some news, Annie. Mr. Jasper Knight is going to be your boss from now on. However, I've heard that he can be a little severe and rigid."
My eyes glistened with joy at this news as my colleague Mark stated with a smile on his face, "Oh, what could go wrong with this after all? Honestly, that's wonderful news. I'm eager to meet him. He must be competent and professional," I said, and he wished me luck. I headed excitedly to the office of my new manager. Mr. Jasper Knight looked up from his desk as soon as I walked in, and his face was not as friendly as I had thought.
"Annie, please have a seat,"
he said in a tone that was meant to be superior. Though my excitement subsided a little, I took a deep breath and sat down, prepared to leave a good impression.
Let's get one thing straight. You're merely an intern who either struck it lucky or had to suck some dicks to get the position. I'm not sure, but that is not something I appreciate in my presence."
My eyes grew wide at what he said. "Sorry, Mr. Knight?" I asked incoherently.
"I think I understand. Someone with your little experience and a degree from such random state institution doesn't seem qualified for a professional position here, in my opinion."
I made an effort to stay calm while he spoke. "Mr. Knight, I get it. To the best of my ability, I'm here to learn and contribute." He sat back in his chair as I answered.
"Learn? Annie, that's all you can do. You don't have the background or experience needed for this kind of work. You made a mistake by coming this far in this company."
he remarked, evaluating me with a pointed look. A sensation of sinking took hold of my chest. "I'm willing to work hard and prove myself, Mr. Knight. I'm confident that I can contribute positively to the team," I said, and he scoffed, dismissing my words.
Confident? Please, Annie, look at yourself. Your dressing sense is subpar, and you lack the confidence to handle a job like this. I expect more from my professionals,
he said, now visibly upset. I tried to hold back tears. "I'm sorry if I have given the wrong impression, Mr. Knight, but I'm here to improve and be an asset to the team," I replied calmly, even though his words shot a dagger at me. His tone got sharper and sharper every moment.
Improvement? We don't have time for that. I suggest you reconsider your career choices. This position requires someone with a better background and confidence, not someone who barely made it through a random state school,
he said, and the weight of his words pressed heavily on me. "I'll try to get better, Mr. Knight," I replied and excused myself, holding back tears as I left his office. The office's once fun environment now felt chilly and unwelcoming. I was unable to get rid of the offensive remarks as I made my way to my workstation. My coworkers gave me sympathetic looks when they noticed how upset I was, but I was unable to escape the shadow of embarrassment Mr. Knight had placed over me. When I was by myself, I permitted myself to let my feelings out. I started crying when I realized how serious the situation was. I started the day with optimism only to encounter shocking brutality. But in that vulnerable moment, I made the decision not to allow Mr. Knight's words to define who I am. I dried my eyes, took a deep breath, and made the decision to utilize this experience as motivation to disprove him. I would put forth more effort, pick up new skills more quickly, and prove to everyone, including myself, that I deserved to hold that position of responsibility. A wave of tension lingered in the air minutes after, and I sensed something was amiss.
"Annie?"
Mr. Knight barked from his office, a scowl etched on his face.
"Come in,"
he said as I nervously stepped into the room. My optimism dimmed as I felt the weight of his disapproving gaze.
"I've got a few things for you. First, I need you to bring me a cup of coffee. Make it strong and don't mess it up,"
he said, his tone laced with condescension. Taken aback, I hesitated for a moment. "Mr. Knight, I was actually assigned some projects that require my immediate attention," I said, and he cut me off with a dismissive wave.
"Those can wait. Right now, I need that coffee. Don't forget the sugar and be quick about it,"
he said, and suppressing my frustration, I nodded and headed towards the break room. This wasn't what I had envisioned when I joined the company. I grabbed a coffee mug, questioning how my professional responsibilities had developed into fetching caffeine for my manager. Returning with the coffee, I placed it on his desk. "Here's your coffee, Mr. Knight," I said, and he glanced at the cup without a word of thanks and gestured to a stack of papers.
"Next, I need you to print these. Make sure it's done right. I don't have time for mistakes,"
he said, and now I navigated to the printer, wondering how I had become the office errand runner. As the machine hummed to life, I couldn't shake the feeling of being undervalued. Once the papers were neatly stacked, I approached Mr. Knight's desk. "The documents are ready," I said, and he barely acknowledged my effort, muttering a curt "good" without looking up from his computer. His tone carried a persistent contempt that left me feeling more like an insignificant gear in a machine than a valued member of a team. I was about to feel relieved until Mr. Knight gave me a long list of things to complete.
"I need you to handle these responsibilities. Annie, it's all a part of your profession. Act as though it is not beneath you,"
he remarked, and as I looked over the list, I felt my stomach drop. It's things like picking up his dry cleaning, ordering lunch, and scheduling his schedule? And none of them fit the picture of the professional role I had in mind. I mastered the courage to speak up. "Mr. Knight, I understand the importance of supporting the team, but these tasks seem more suited for an assistant. My skills could be utilized more effectively in my assigned projects." I said, and he glanced up, a smirk playing on his lips.
Annie, you're new here. You need to prove yourself. This is how we operate. Don't get ahead of yourself,
he said, and I left his office with a heavy heart. With each tedious duty, the professional respect I had hoped for seemed to diminish. I couldn't help but wonder if Mr. Knight had treated me unfairly because of my abilities, or just because he didn't care about what I could become. I juggled between my actual obligations and mundane tasks. As the day went on, my co-workers and I shared sympathetic looks as we acknowledged the unfair burden that had been placed on my shoulders. The once vibrant office now resembling a battleground of diminished proficiency. Evening shadows were dancing on the walls as the office had become silent. I had just finished gathering my things and was about to call it a day when my phone buzzed. I received a message asking me to return to the office from Mr. Jasper Knight. I was curious and a little nervous, but I made the decision to do as my manager asked. Mr. Knight was sitting behind his desk when I walked into his office. His eyes had a menacing sparkle that made me shiver.
I've been thinking about your position here, Annie,
he said with a sinister smile playing on his lips. And he stood up from his desk, coming behind me.
You see, I can make your life much easier here. All your struggles, all the menial tasks, I can put an end to it. All you have to do is agree to something simple,
he said, and my eyes widened. I don't understand, Mr. Knight. What are you talking about? I said with a mixture of confusion and horror on my face. A wicked grin spread across his face as he leaned in.
Annie, my dear, I can acknowledge your capabilities, make your professional life a breeze if you just comply with my desires,
he said, and slid his hand down to my thighs, touching it inappropriately. I jumped back from my seat as my stomach churned, and the realization of what he was suggesting sank in. I can't believe you're saying this. I won't do anything like that for my career. Shock and anger intermingled as I stammered. Mr. Knight's demeanor turned menacing as he attempted to intimidate me.
Think carefully, Annie. This could be the breakthrough you need. Your ambitions or a little discomfort. Choose wisely,
he said, grabbing me again by my hips, and that was the moment I decided it. Gathering my strength, I shook my head in defiance. I won't compromise my principles for any career advancement. It's not worth it, I said, and I tried to leave the office.
You are making a big mistake, Annie. I can make things very difficult for you,
he said. Enough is enough, Mr. Knight. You're an asshole, and I won't let you manipulate or harass me, I said, and then I turned on my heel, determined to put an end to the toxicity. Mr. Knight's voice followed me as I reached the door, dripping with venom.
You will regret this, Annie. You're throwing away your career,
he said, and with my hand on the doorknob, I looked back at him. My self-respect is worth more than any career. I resign, I declared, closing the door behind me. I walked out of the awful predicament I had found myself in, heart wounded but soul intact. Regaining my composure, I took a deep breath as I stepped outside into the cool night air. In the days that followed, I had to deal with the uncertainty of looking for a job, but I was proud of myself for having resisted manipulation and harassment. Even though the experience had been unpleasant, it had strengthened my determination to find employment where my abilities would constantly be recognized and appreciated. 5 years later, the hum of air conditioning filled our international corporation's gleaming, modern office. I, the CEO, had to now review some high-level position applications. I sat behind a sleek desk and, with a creak, the door opened and I looked up shocked. A candidate walked inside and my astonishment deepened as I recognized the face. It's Jasper Knight, my former boss. Memories of his harassment and mistreatment flooded back, but I composed myself. Jasper, oblivious to my current status, scoffed.
You? What are you doing here? Call the person in charge.
A calm smile curved my lips. Mr. Knight, You're looking at her. I'm the CEO now, I said, and his eyes widened. Disbelief etched across his face. I gestured for him to take a seat, maintaining my poise. Let's proceed with the interview, shall we? I said, and he stammered through the questions, his unease palpable. I, however, remained composed, giving no indication of our shared history. As the interview concluded, he said,
Annie, about what happened before
Miss Harper, for you. I said,
sorry.
He said, I can't have someone with your history in my company. I won't tolerate harassment or mistreatment, I said, and Jasper's face contorted with regret, desperation evident in his voice.
Annie, my life has been ruined since then. I have lost so much. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive me?
He said, forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. I have moved forward, and so should you. But you won't do it here, I said, and he left defeated. I considered the fortitude it takes to face my past. I felt confident that my choice, which protected the workplace I had worked so hard to create, was right. I imagined a time in the future when nobody would go through what I did. As I sat in my corner office and looked out, it wasn't simply about money and success when I built my legacy. It was about developing an environment at work free from injustice and exploitation, where everyone might prosper. The city below is a patchwork of lights as I sit in the corner office behind my large desk and look out the tall glass windows. 2 years have gone since I regained my story, overcoming my past, suffering to succeed as a powerful CEO. A wry smile plays on my lips as I ponder on the journey. My face is illuminated by the cityscape's soothing glow, which also creates shadows that hint at a turbulent past. I sigh in awe as I lean back in my chair to see the change. However, I can't help but think about the subdued victory and the sweet, subtly relished flavor of retribution. During the crucial interview I faced Jasper Knight, I didn't just say no to hiring him, I prevented him from tainting the haven I had diligently created. I am aware of the strength of my choice and the subdued victory that reverberates throughout my organization. Revenge? Perhaps served a little late, but oh, how sweet it is. I looked up at the modern towers that serve as a testament to my accomplishments. The scars of resiliency and the armor of power have healed the wounds caused by Jasper's harassment. Even though the wheels of justice move slowly, they do so. I find satisfaction in the fact that my tormentor has had to deal with the repercussions of his acts, having had his professional life changed by the very lady he had misjudged. The balance of power has changed, and I like the irony of it all. The past doesn't bother me anymore. Instead, it gives me more motivation. My revenge is not only about getting even. It's a statement that no one, not even those who attempted to crush my soul, can decide how my life will turn out. Revenge has evolved into the mainstay of my legacy in its postponed incarnation. A legacy-based fortitude, tenacity, and the satisfaction of demonstrating that the tables could indeed turn.